All right, folks, recent events have unveiled a series of interconnected scandals that no one saw coming, and our main character in this saga, none other than Mel Gibson. Just when you thought the drama couldn't get any thicker, Gibson dropped a bombshell about the notorious Epstein files. Yes, the very ones that the elites hoped would stay buried. These files, long shrouded in mystery, are now being scrutinized, and you'll be stunned to learn what's really lurking beneath those redactions. With insiders like Corey Feldman and Cat Williams shining a light on the dark underbelly of the industry, it's clear this isn't just gossip. It's a narrative we're all too familiar with. So, hit that subscribe button now and get ready to unveil the stories Hollywood doesn't want you to hear.
This is a bizarre place, and it doesn't take very long, and I'm sure you've experienced this if you've stayed here for any length of time. You come in, you're fresh from the outside, you're off the boat, from the farm, still got shit on your shoes, you're in here, people are charmed by that you've still got shit on your shoes. They're charmed by the fresh approach you bring to it, and that's a real thing. But they're also stroking the shit out of you, licking you all over. And that's kind of good for you too.
Great.
But it doesn't take very long before you realize, or before it gets to you. It's cascading on you all the time. You can't get away from certain attitudes, from certain modes of behavior that this town and the industry dictate. And no matter how strong you are, when you come in off the farm with those convictions and a certain line of attack, no matter how strong you are going to be affected by this place. It's going to divert you from where you were going.
Sure.
You're going to be diverted. When I came over here, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over here. I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
Yes, you heard correctly. Mel Gibson has compared this sector to a strange, surreal world where you are first greeted with charm and excitement, but soon discover that those same smiles can conceal deception. Imagine a young star entering, ready to leave their imprint, only to be quickly engulfed in a maelstrom of poisonous attitudes that have the power to crush any willpower. Mel compared the experience to a double-edged sword, saying that while you initially feel unique, the dark undercurrents quickly suck you down. It's like strolling into a spooky town from a scary movie, where everyone turns eerily silent when you arrive, exchanging sly looks and cautioning you to stay away from the home on the hill. At first, Gibson dismissed his feelings as nothing more than paranoia, but he subsequently realized that his darkest concerns about the Hollywood machine were legitimate. He once said that he felt like he was living in a horror movie, and that the circumstances were so bizarre that they felt like a personal sacrifice. He boldly retreated to Australia to rediscover the basic pleasures of life, such as farming and caring for animals, in an attempt to regain his sanity. The irony is that the explosive Epstein files that were recently uncovered, which expose long-buried ties, directly collide with his background of discoveries. Bill Clinton's unquestionable connection to Epstein is one of those dramatic revelations, as evidenced by recently released images that illustrate their friendship and startling testimonials that hint at deeper implications. Claims of ignorance are undermined by Clinton's numerous visits to Epstein's estates, which raise serious concerns. But let's not focus just on the politicians. This issue affects a wide range of celebrities, like Chris Tucker and Michael Jackson, who are all entangled in Epstein's vast network, underscoring a concerning infiltration of the elite. Claims in papers that the Department of Justice strangely redacted thicken the plot, prompting us to wonder what facts are still kept secret from the general public. Mel Gibson raises awareness of the unsettling problem of human trafficking entwined with Hollywood's glittering facade, and this is where his warning becomes vital. Take a look at this eye-opening clip that lays it all bare.
And I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be. Because a whole place can't be like, weird town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them and they tell you don't go into the house on the hill. And it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like, could it? And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think, now this is what I mean by actually starting to swim up or downstream with the rest of the salmon, eventually, if you stay here long enough.
Yeah.
You'll find yourself doing that. And you have to, there's a way of doing it without doing it. That takes time. And it takes relaxation.
Not being uncomfortable about
Not being uncomfortable, realizing it for what it is,
projecting.
understanding what it is. Once you understand it, well, then you're not afraid of it anymore, so you can just walk around it, through it, and then get on with what you tried to get on with in the first place. A place like this can humiliate you, and it can humiliate you, it can be humbling. I mean, it does rip your life to pieces.
Does it?
If you'll let it.
Yeah.
And it's always pounding at the walls. These little guys, these little heathens with no soul downstairs with horns on their head with a battering ram trying to like beat your walls in.
Yeah.
But that's your own devils, you know.
Yeah. I mean, as a matter of interest, do you think it's easier because you're an outsider who came in?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because it was glaring to me because I was an outsider who came in. But who isn't an outsider?
Yes, you read correctly. The discussion about preventing exploitation frequently begins with a straightforward but potent concept of awareness. From there, it escalates into a much louder public debate, including the push by some voices to watch Sound of Freedom, a movie that dramatizes the problem of child trafficking and provokes strong reactions in media circles. Actor Jim Caviezel and Mel Gibson publicly supported the film, which framed itself as a spotlight on a real worldwide crime. This framing alone made it impossible to ignore, especially when viewers noticed that major streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon did not actively promote it, a decision that stood out given how frequently those same companies highlight other social impact projects. To be fair and transparent, those platforms never provided cohesive explanations, which allowed for conjecture, debate, and unavoidably strong opinions on the internet. The film was first purchased by 20th Century Fox prior to Disney's acquisition of Fox, which added to the mystery. Disney then decided not to release it and sold the rights, an industry practice that occurs more frequently than people realize but raised concerns due to the film's delicate subject matter. And the best part, or at least the part that kept the debate going, was how the situation blended with more general discussions about power, influence, and storytelling in Hollywood, particularly after podcasters like Joe Rogan and comedians like Cat Williams talked about how success in entertainment can occasionally involve unspoken expectations. While Williams, speaking from personal experience, suggested that public rituals of humiliation are less about symbolism and more about whether compliance leads to career momentum, a claim that many see as anecdotal, others as pattern-based, and critics as coincidental. Rogan framed it as a system where creative freedom and access frequently depend on who you align with. Then, as that debate was simmering, the public's interest was rekindled by a fresh focus on documents pertaining to Epstein. This led people to examine social circles and identify strange discrepancies, such as how certain well-known figures seem connected in some contexts, but not in others, including the intriguing finding that Epstein and Diddy appear to live in completely different party ecosystems. None of this proves a hidden script running the world, but it does reveal how modern audiences increasingly question media power, celebrity networks, and who controls which stories reach the mainstream. And if you want to see exactly what sparked these reactions, debates, and side-by-side comparisons everyone's talking about, take a look.
Propaganda in Hollywood movies is built into the ingredients list. It's like if you want flour, you need you're gonna have to get the beat. And if you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people. And it'd be nice if you made it so that this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is showing the negative side of this other society, and this is and this is our hero. Is our hero who's gonna go do America's bidding and go over there, and you're like, okay. And those movies are successful, and so they continue this relationship, and you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government, and in turn they don't with you.
Right, but that's what makes information so powerful is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about just following the ritual work.
Yeah.
And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like when I be like, oh, these guys are wearing dresses, everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not.
That is a weird thing.
It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is.
And the best part is, this conversation doesn't rely on whispers or vague rumors. It's built on years of public statements, interviews, and documented cases that continue to resurface whether people are comfortable with them or not. Because yes, You heard that right. Corey Feldman has been consistently speaking about systemic problems in Hollywood for decades, often at great personal and professional cost, while carefully navigating legal boundaries that limit what he can say outright. Feldman has stated time and time again that his decision to keep some people anonymous is not about protecting anyone, but rather about surviving in a field where lawsuits, blacklisting, and financial ruin are very real consequences. When discussing the trauma he and Corey Haim experienced as child actors, he frames it as lived experience rather than gossip, including his belief that unresolved abuse played a significant role in Haim's later struggles and eventual death. The tension between truth and consequence is a recurrent theme in Feldman's story, and when he said that one powerful Hollywood figure bears responsibility but stays anonymous, he stressed that the person knows exactly who they are. This statement struck a chord because it suggests accountability without going beyond the law. Here, it's critical to maintain objectivity. Feldman has publicly identified Marty Weiss, a former talent manager who was found guilty in 2012 of crimes involving minors. Feldman claimed that Weiss mistreated Corey Haim when he was younger, a claim that is consistent with issues brought up in more general industry investigations, such as the documentary Quiet on Set, which looked at how authority figures occasionally abused access to children. Regardless of one's position, Feldman's description of how harmful behavior can become normalized when children are surrounded by adults who frame exploitation as just how things work is striking. Feldman has also accused Charlie Sheen of misconduct related to the set of the movie Lucas, an accusation Sheen has denied. That normalization, he argues, is what allows abuse to continue unchecked, because children often don't have the language, power, or context to recognize wrongdoing until much later. The industry is under closer scrutiny as these long-standing allegations resurface along with increased public interest in the Epstein document releases. This is not because everyone involved is guilty, but rather because institutional protection, power disparity, and patterns of silence are being re-examined in real time. Public figures like Mel Gibson and Cat Williams have contributed to this conversation in different ways. Gibson had previously criticized Hollywood's moral inconsistencies, and Williams had predicted that long-buried truths would come to light. Given the current wave of revelations and recontextualized information, many observers now feel that these remarks are timely. It's not that these voices agree on everything. They don't, but rather that they highlight a common issue: how powerful institutions may conceal wrongdoing for decades while maintaining a polished public image. When discussing panic or damage control in Hollywood, the focus is more on reputational risk in a time when information spreads quickly and prior actions are reassessed using contemporary criteria than on covered meetings. The concept of a decades-long pattern is about understanding how incentives, money, and power can subtly inhibit responsibility, particularly when young performers are engaged, rather than asserting a single organized conspiracy. Because of this, historical comparisons are important, not as evidence of inevitability, but rather as a reminder that similar cautions have been issued time and time again and were frequently disregarded until outside pressure made it impossible to remain silent. It doesn't really matter whether individuals like Gibson, Feldman, or others eventually see significant changes. What matters most is that discussions that were previously disregarded are now included in popular discourse, and that change in and of itself signifies change. Before drawing any conclusions of your own, keep in mind that the questions being asked today are sharper, more educated, and more difficult to avoid. Although the results are still uncertain, the trend toward transparency seems to be stronger than it has been in years. So guys, here you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please encourage us and subscribe to this channel. It costs you $0 and matters a lot to us.